You're listening to the Journey to Launch podcast, how to live a life you don't need to retire from and earning seven figures through mission-driven entrepreneurship with Glo Atanmo. Journeyers, I have a special treat. It's always a special treat, but it's a especially special treat with this conversation that I'm about to bring you. It's been a long time coming. I'm so glad right now that we are going to be speaking to Glo Atanmo on the Journey to Launch podcast. Welcome, Glo.
Thank you so much, Jamila. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Let's have a bomb conversation. Let's give the people what they want.
Yes, and so there are some people who will know who you are, and there are some people who don't, which is so always surprising to me. Like, no matter how big someone's platform you think is, right? Like, as I know because you've been around people with larger platforms. Like, there's still people who have no clue you exist. And but I love that. It's like the discovery. And so I'm really excited for the people who don't know who you are to learn more about you. And then hopefully for the people who kind of know who you are to learn more about your journey to where you are today. And so one of the main reasons, that I love following your journey, because this is all about the journey, is that you've had so many iterations to get to where you are today. So what I want to start with is kind of where you are right now, like in terms of your entrepreneurship life, what you've been able to accomplish, because I think starting there will give a good focus point, and then we can take it back. So Glo, what's up? Who are you? Tell us about your entrepreneurship journey right now.
Yeah, so the term or the label, I guess, I like to use currently is creative educator. And I find myself changing my Instagram bio every month because I'm like, whoa, what do you do? Come on, I need one word to describe it. And to any multi-hyphenates out there, multi-passionate people, it's okay if your label switches every month because mine does. But right now, creative educator, I'm the founder of the Social Educators Academy, which helps people use social media to make a difference and a living. I'm very missionally driven. I love attaching myself to people who have missions. Because I started as a travel blogger, travel influencer who just wanted to get paid to travel. I was like, look, I want to see the world. I want to get paid to do it. And I did that. And I was like, I did the multiple six-figure blog. And I was like, okay, let me teach other bloggers how to make money with their travel blog. And I realized a lot of times the end goal stopped there. I was like, okay, yeah, we're out here living our best lives, but what are we doing for others? And what's the legacy that comes from this? If all I have to show for is a photo of me stunting for the gram, am I really living in my deepest purpose? And so that's when I really started to pull away and say, okay, how can I help other people use social media in a way where, yes, they can make a living, but also make a difference, attaching themselves to a larger mission. So creative entrepreneur, creative educator, I'll go by either of those, but I love what I do. I just returned from Grenada, and I got a couple more trips planned up. So it's like the world is opening back up. Depending on when people listen to this episode, travel is going again, and it feels really cool.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I think what's most remarkable about your journey is that you share enough to where you're comfortable sharing, which I love because it sets the tone and just an example of other people like myself in this space about how much they can share, but also how much they can hold back, but also the social media aspect, because yes, there's a lot of talk about social media being very toxic, and which can be true and can overtake our lives. But I love the way that you frame it to where let's use this for good, because this is the new world. We're connecting on social media.
Absolutely. And I want people to also understand that social media at the end of the day is a free tool, and it's done more good than bad. And if we constantly look at it as this negative monster, the algorithm, and just all these people just constantly complaining, I was like, I can't relate. Social media has given me a living. It has allowed me to connect with amazing, creative weirdos around the world. I was like, social media I started my first blog at 11. Social media has been the biggest blessing of my life. No matter what happens, as long as it's free, I don't have the right to complain. And that's how I look at it.
And so let's talk about just all the things you've done in terms of the different things you've tried. Because I think I was listening to one of your podcasts, episodes. You have a podcast too. So shout that podcast out.
The Glo Show, you know what I'm saying?
The Glo Show. And so you talked, I forgot which episode, but you were talking about all the jobs or things you've had, iterations that you've had to get to where you are. And this is important because I know there's journeyers listening. That's the audience. That's what I call my people who listen to this podcast. that they are starting at a point where it's like, well, this is not the true vision I had for myself. But, you know, and they're just doing it. And so I want to kind of like show through your example how many things you've done to get to this probably, and I don't know your like income, but I'm sure multi six-figure point that you are today. Talk about all the things you've done, if you can remember them. All like, I think, what, 8 or 9 things, like iterations to get you here.
What's really interesting about this, so I hit 7 figures annually in revenue for the first time last year, but it wasn't until I dedicated my platform to service. And here's the thing I want people to pick up on. I started 11 years old with a diary blog. I was like, ooh, you can have a corner of the internet that you can call your own. So I talked about cute boys in school and like homework that I didn't like. But I started with that diary blog. Then I had a pop culture blog. That was during the rise of TMZ, where it was like cool to talk about celebrities. So toxic. Then I had a music blog because I really loved, you know, mixtapes and music. We were getting into the era of MP3 players. And yeah, it was cool to be able to make mixtapes for other people. Then I had a sports blog. So talking about sports, I'm a double collegiate athlete. I played basketball and tennis and then semi-pro in Spain for basketball. So I love sports. So I had a sports blog. Then I had an academic blog. When I studied abroad, I was like, yo, there's got to be an avenue where I can just talk about my travels, because I was spamming my Facebook feed. I was like, I think I should just have something else. And then I had my travel blog. So my travel blog, which earned me multiple 6 figures over the years, was like my 6th blog. And then it's literally when I was like, okay, I'm doing all this for myself, because we go to iterations and we go to all the things that we do to get where we are. In those moments and in those seasons, I never said, well, I'm committing to doing a sports blog for the rest of my life. I said, no, this is my season and I'm gonna show up. This is a season for sports. Like, I feel excited about that right now. So that's what I'm going to show up and talk about. And I think a lot of us feel so scared to commit because we're like, what if we change? What if in 6 months? Well, let 6 months happen and then change, you know? So I always allowed myself, and I didn't let anyone guilt or shame me for changing my label or my passion at that time. And when I pivoted again to be more of like a business coach, a creative coach, like that was when I had my first 7-figure year. I was like, oh, literally, not only is the purpose in service, but the legacy is too. Because all the things that I knew and accumulated, because I was in masterminds, I was reading books, I was doing the work. And so all the information I had, I was kind of hoarding it. I was building my business, but I saw other travel bloggers struggling, other female entrepreneurs struggling. And I was like, well, you got to create something where you can pass on this wealth of information. Because you got some of your audience who, their mothers, they got full-time jobs. Like, they're busy people. They're not single and childless like you. And you could spend all day being a monk, you know? and like, I had that privilege of time. And so I was like, okay, how can I codify and package and take just all the best information that I'm learning from, I was investing in like 5-figure masterminds and just getting in these rooms versus a bunch of like rich white people. And so I was like, okay, this needs to be passed down. Like, there's stuff that it's hard for us to access that kind of information. So I was always like, okay, in this next season, in this next level, like, I got to find a way to pass this on. But back to your question.
Yeah, no, but it's so true that no matter, this is just a season that you're in, but you have to lean into it, because the things that you're learning right now will be the things that you'll need. It's almost like the video game characters. My kids are now like into that stuff. And like the level 1, like they're on level 8, but that level 1 like challenge, it was a reason they picked up that gem, and now they need that gem to defeat, the dragon in level 8. But if they would have just said, oh, I don't need this now, or this is so bad, like, and that I think is life. We have to lean into this stuff right now.
That's good, y'all. Jamila just dropped a gem. She said, literally, like, sometimes the gems you pick up on level 1, you won't need them till level 8. Ooh, that's good. That's good.
But you have to recognize it. And I think this is the awareness. And it's okay if, you've been complaining or not happy or not taking advantage. It's fine. I think that we all go through that. But this awareness level, and I think what you picked up, I mean, even your, like, the way you do your social media, the creativity of it all. I know you did graphic design, the way you tell stories, all that helps you now in your current business that you had to learn through all the other things you did.
Absolutely. And I remember when I was hustling, so I was living on $10 a day, for those who don't know about my travel blogging years, but influencer marketing, it wasn't an industry in 2013. You weren't getting paid by brands. Like, if anything, like, they were like laughing in your face. Like, why would we ever pay you money? Like, come on. Like, we got $1 million budgets. We're doing the magazines, we're doing the billboards, we're doing commercials on TV. That's what gets people influenced. Little did they know, the influencer marketing industry, was it now a multi-billion dollar industry per year? Like it's insane. But back then, because I was young and scrappy and trying, I was 22 when I took my first international trip to the UK. And I'm just like, yo, I'm good at social media. Like I grew up in the era of Xanga and Tumblr and Blogspot. Like I've used every social media, of course, MySpace, but I had used every social media platform for the last decade. I was like, I know there's a way to like benefit a company for this. So I would walk into hostels and like knowing I got like maybe $2 in my pocket, $2 to my name. I can't even withdraw from the ATM. You can't withdraw $2, girl.
Right.
I remember those days where I was like, man, I can't even make an online transaction because I ain't got nothing in my account. So I'd walk into these hostels. I'd be maybe in Spain or Germany, and it would be an international hostel. Maybe it's only like $12 a night as well for a bed, but still $12 I didn't have. So I'd very confidently walk in and just go straight to reception and just like, oh, is the manager in? Or, oh, are you working tonight? Or, whatever the deal is. But I learned how to communicate and negotiate on the spot. Because I was like, in that moment, Glo, if you showed your desperation, fear, or anxiety about not having a place to sleep for the night, like that shows. People feel desperation. And, we could talk about this a little bit later on, but that same, the sales tactics that come off as like urgent and like false scarcity and like, people feel that, So I learned how to maintain this level of equilibrium, like, hey, I noticed, I was walking and I saw your social media. I noticed your Instagram hasn't been updated in a year. Like, I would love to help with that. I have a marketing background. Here's my social media page. And I would just show them my followers and the level of quality of my photos. And I'd be like, well, let me just stay for a couple nights and just, train staff. Maybe I can get someone. I'm like, maybe just give me a bed for the night. Like, just casual. Like, I'll just, I'm casually, I'm in town. Like, I would make it as almost so indifferent. Like, I just happen to be passing by. Well, do you by chance have like a bed? Is there an open bed or an open room? I'm like, hey, how about for the next week I run your social media, you just give me a bed. Like that's it. And because it's not a loss for them because no one was sleeping there anyway. But yeah. I just learned how to get real savvy and negotiate on the spot. And I also had to learn how to have a humble spirit. Because imagine if I was like, oh, I know my worth. You're going to pay me X amount for social media management. Excuse me. I was like, no, Glo, like you need them more than they need you. Check yourself. And I think that level of entitlement is something that's missing in today's era. Like I try to tell my students and clients, like I want to get you paid so bad. I want you to build your portfolio, but I need you to understand that like you're one in a million. There's a lot of people out there. If you come to the table talking about run me my check and like the attitude of entitlement that you deserve a company's money, they're not going to pay you. And when you start off with that humble spirit in the beginning as well, like you'll get paid even more than what you think you're worth in the long run. So
yeah, it's a long game. And, I get this. And there is a, trend now about know your worth and, raise your price and charge your price. And I get it. But I do think you have to have the confidence, not the entitlement. Like I don't mind the entitlement as much, like inner entitlement, but the confidence to, because you can be saying all that and not believe it, and it's going to show in your work. It's going to show. People will just pick that up. Here's what I want to pick up from what you just said about creating opportunities for yourself, because essentially I think that is such a powerful thing. And I always tell people you have to be able to see the opportunities, because there's someone who's in your position or who was in your position, doesn't have the money, passes a hotel or a hostel, and it's just like, that's it. I can't do anything about this. And I think the most powerful gift you can have is the one to create opportunities, self-generating like energy and opportunities. And I feel like just hearing you talk and then even knowing how far you've come, you just heard her say, everyone, she didn't have like $2 in her bank account and now like she's earning 7 figures, is that you have to continually be able to recognize the opportunities and be ready for them. Because if you didn't have a social media account already, when you walked in there, you couldn't have had that as an like option.
That part. And that's such a gem as well, because people want to start doing the work when the opportunity comes. But because I was doing the work before people were paying me, like I was documenting my travels. I was taking photos with tree stumps as a tripod. And like, I didn't have a fancy camera. I had my phone. I used what I had. I think a lot of times we also look at like, oh, well, when I can afford the best camera, then I'll get it. I had a smartphone, Wi-Fi, and a laptop. I already felt like I was in the well, I not only felt, but I was in the top, what, 5% of wealthiest people in the world just by having those resources. We take for granted how much we actually have at the palm of our hand. And I was like, okay, this phone, you look, Samsung Galaxy S2, that's what I had back then. It's going to do the work. It's going to get me through, okay? And I made it work.
Yeah, you have to. Okay, so now that, that's a big change. I don't know, how long did it take for you to get to from, if you could think about the $2 in your bank account to seven figures? How many years was that time span?
Gosh. Well, I want to say, let's look at six figures first, because that was the first goal I set
Yeah.
for myself. Six figures as a 22-year-old felt so lofty. I was like, six figures was also taunted as like, or toted around as like this, like, ooh, that was the elusive path. You can make a six-figure income, like that was, you've made it. And now we look at six figures, no offense, it's like, oh,
Right, as Rachel Rogers would say, it's not enough. Right.
After taxes, you're like, wait, actually, this ain't it.
Right.
But yeah, so my first goal was to make six figures. So I would say from 2013, my first six-figure year was 2016. So it took me 3 years to hit that six-figure mark. And then from 2016, it was almost like I doubled. Then I had $250,000, then I had $500,000, and then eventually my first $1 million year.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? Because I always like to say there's a difference between your business making six figures and seven figures versus you bringing home as your paycheck what you live on, because there's that, there's expenses, there's taxes, there's all these other things. So I know that you're like a very lean operation. You said before we recorded, like, it's just me, you're doing all the work, which I'm just like, how is she doing all this? Like, she needs help. But how do you equate that? Because there's one thing about your business doing well, but how do you deal with your personal finances and the income increase that you've had?
I love this, and I think this quote changed my life forever. I heard it a while ago, but they were saying every time you level up your income, you cannot level up your lifestyle yet. Give it a year. Give it a year before you level up your lifestyle. And I'm so glad that quote stuck with me, because had I started spending like a multiple six-figure earner, seven-figure earner before I had a year of earning that, I think I probably would have gone just F the money off. And even Kevin Hart talks about, like, anyone who comes into money after not having much money, like, you probably have F off money because you just don't know. You're so careless with it. And I remember the first expense where I looked at where I was like, was that smart? Was I was going over my finances. I think it was like 2017. I spent over $30,000 on other people's food. And I was like, Glo.
You mean like restaurants?
Restaurants.
Okay.
Because I would track the times I would take people out, or like I was in some city, because I'm traveling and I'm always meeting up with people. And every time I meet up with someone, I cover the bill. I'm like, oh, you get to tell me stories about your culture. Let me cover. So I'm doing 20 party people, 10 party people, but I'm hosting all these dinners over several months. And I was like, $30,000 on food that, like, you probably spent $1,000 was probably for you, but $29K. And I'm glad I had that moment. Two things came into perspective. One, I love spending money on other people. Like, I didn't feel regret from that, because I was like, the stories, the memories, the friendships that were bonded in those dinners, that was worth it. And I was like, if this is as careless as I'll be with money, I'll take that. I'm so thankful that I've never been, growing up poor, you can't be materialistic because you can't afford any of the materials. And so when I bought my first pair of Jordans last summer, when I made that 1 million milestone, it was like around August when I did 1 million for the year. I was like, ooh, how do I celebrate this? What do I do? It was another day. I took a shower. I took a dump. Everything was the same. I was like, don't let the people fool you. Nothing changes when it comes. But I was like, no, Glo, you need to celebrate this moment, because I think high achievers, we don't celebrate ourselves enough.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I'm buying myself a pair of Jordans because growing up, I could never afford them. So I bought me the J's. I was like, oh, this feels good. But like, once I got the J's, I was like, okay, cool. Like,
now what?
I needed something to symbolize the milestone, but I never got attached. Like, I don't own like 30 pairs of Jordans. I was like, let me get the one pair. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just needed something to symbolize it, but I never fell into the materialistic trap. So when you talk about, like, just profit margins, I think that was big for me. And I would hire contractors and vendors. And, even hosting my first conference in Puerto Rico, I did an international summit in Puerto Rico. 100 people from 6 continents flew in. And that was like, I didn't have any sponsors for that. So I paid $150,000 to make that happen. I was just like,
wow.
you know, and now I think that was probably my biggest expense, just business wise. And
Did you make any? Did you make any money from that for the ticket sales? No. Wow.
That was literally, you know, and here's the thing, Jamila, I've always been someone where, you know, it's people over profit for me. The reason I can have, like, right now, my highest offer is 30K. And I have a 10K mastermind where people, I can fly to someone's city, they pay me 10K for a weekend. Like, I can have those offers, and people, I just got a booking yesterday. People will pay that because of, like, the way that I've shown up in the past. And so when I invest that 150K, of course, I budgeted maybe 60,000. So of course I was 90,000 short of, like, ooh, okay, this is okay. I'm emptying that out. And I remember when I went from having a goal of having a 6-figure income to a 6-figure savings. So I had the savings. It was just kind of like overwhelming to have to, like, drain that much out at once. But
Yeah.
I will say this, there's nothing that I've done where I was like, ooh, it didn't make money, so it doesn't make sense. Nah, for me, it's like, I'm building up credibility. I'm also building up a portfolio. I'm building the experience. So you sometimes need, here's what wealth does, and here's what money does, because people don't understand this sometimes. Money allows you the opportunity to make mistakes. I can't just do something if I don't have the money to play with money. So I've done things in the past where I'm like, ooh, I learned from that. That cost me $30,000, but I learned. And it's like, sometimes you need that experience to, like, be a better equipped entrepreneur. So now I would say I'm, like, financially savvy and smart with my money, and got a portfolio and diversified, you know, options, and all of that came with time. But I think back then I was so excited to just be, when you're living in your dream and you have so much alignment and you're getting paid to travel. I'm still doing 5- and 6-figure brand deals, you know, getting paid to travel. And I felt like there was hardly room for me to just, like, complain about, like, what I was doing one month to the next. But as long as oh, sorry.
No, go. No, I'm just like, yes. My wheels are spinning in terms of everything you're saying, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah, but then when I started having recurring 6-figure months, that's when I was like, okay, it's time to start building out a team. It's time to start, like, you know, figuring out what the next move is. Because here's another thing, Jamila, people don't talk about this, but, like, it's harder to maintain success than it is to become a success. And I've been like, okay, I did that first hurdle. I climbed that first mountain. Once you climb that first mountain, you can't stay at the summit. You can't just be like, oh, we here. What's up? You better climb back down and find a new one to climb. Because if you stay at that same mountain too long, you're going to plateau. You're going to miss out on areas of growth. You're not going to be spotlighting your weaknesses. And I realized as a travel blogger, okay, made it. I can't stay here. Okay, create the travel blogging course. Okay, create the business coaching. Okay, create the luxury retreats. Okay, run the international summit. Okay, start the academy. I had to start, like, climbing new mountains, because I was like, this is easy now. And no fulfillment in easy, for me at least.
Well, so there's so many things. I was taking some notes because I wanted to come back to this. So you just talked about a few things. Let's go with the money allows you to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's so true. This is why it's so important to have a safety net and launch pad, so that, you know, you're not putting up money that if you lost it, it's like you're done. It's a detriment to you. But also what I find is that there are times, even, you know, myself, where I'm making bigger investments or taking bigger risks, and it's like, it's a big part of my portfolio or savings, but it's something that I need to do. And I think I talk about, like, gifts and internal wealth and power. And the idea that you can take some of these risks, and sometimes you don't have, like, the backup, right? But I know so many people who have just gone on faith, gone on their inner trust about what they can do, and they've been able to, like, transcend maybe, like, the next level because they were okay with losing something that was bigger than themselves, right? Losing the security. And I think for a lot of people who are not there yet, who are not at 6 figures or 7 figures, who are still working in a job that they don't love, it's going to require them to take some risk and to invest and to spend money on things. And some people can't fathom, like, that. But I know when I started investing in myself, like, and paying for the coaching or programs, that's when I started to see more success. And so I just feel like that is just a call that, yes, money allows you to make mistakes, but sometimes you have to be willing to make the mistakes and lose the money, because there's a lesson in all of it.
That part. And the lessons that you remember most are the ones that you paid for. Like, oh, that cost me 20,000. Never doing that again.
Right, right. Oh
And
my
mine,
gosh.
yeah, the lessons you remember most. Go ahead and write it down. I see you. The lessons you remember most are the ones that you paid for. And I remember my very first blog, the slogan, or my very first travel blog, the slogan was professional risk taker. Because nothing about my journey was safe. I left the US with $500 in my bank account on a one-way ticket to the UK. I was like, I'm gonna make this work. There's no backup plan. My mom, Nigerian, Gloria, go and get your master's degree. Okay, you have time to be a doctor. If not a doctor, you can still be a lawyer. Okay, because this is safe. Sacrificed my life to come to America. Guilt trip. All my life. Got the guilt trip story. And for the first 20 years, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be a doctor. My mom, she needs me to be a doctor. Like, she sacrificed everything. And I was like, the two can coexist. I can be grateful for her sacrifices and still recognize the newness of opportunity at my feet. And we have had a strained relationship for the last decade. We currently are in a season where we're not talking because she still is like waiting for the day that I'll come to my senses and be a doctor.
So for her, and I'm just not singling her out, but it's like the label versus like the money. So even though, I don't know if she's aware, but like, even though you have the money and the success and the notoriety, for her, it's a title that matters.
Because the title comes with social status back home. Because, I have family back in Nigeria. And for them, all that means wealth is Nigeria or doctor, lawyer, engineer. Like, that's wealth to them. You tell them, oh, yeah, my daughter's a blogger. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Doesn't matter that you're doing well. If they don't know what being a blogger means, if it hasn't had that global recognition of like fame or notoriety, power, whatever, it means nothing to them. So for her, it's more of like, at the end of the day, we all want to feel valued and cherished and feel like we're doing a good job. So she feels like a failure as a parent, bringing her kids all the way to America and they can't become doctors or lawyers. So.
Yeah, that's deep. And I know so many people have gone through that, especially children of immigrants. Yeah. Like that is like education is really key because it is the, way out and the safety net or the safe thing that they want us to do. But I'm so glad that you followed your own passion and you're still following that because I know someone needs to probably hear that. They are following what their parents want them to do and it's not what they want to do at all. And so it's empowering when you see other people living their full lives out. Now, the other thing you said, and I wonder if this is you talked about being overachievers. We don't give ourselves enough credit. I can say I'm guilty of that too. You talked about getting and climbing new summits. Do you think that also, even though that's great because it pushes you, like I was thinking about Simone Biles and how like, she's like, I forgot on how many world titles now and has not lost a competition she has entered. Yeah. And I think I saw something to where she says like this, I go back to the next practice. This is not that she didn't say it was nothing, but she was just like, I'm on to the, like, I got to practice now for the next thing. Do you think also like the whole, when you get comfortable, you're good at something, like giving yourself new challenges is also a kind of way to make your life, I don't want to say harder, but you're almost not enjoying kind of the success you have because you now need a new challenge. Is that like also detrimental to your mental or emotional health in some ways? Do you find that?
This is layered. This is so good. I love that you asked this because when I don't feel like I'm achieving or striving towards something else, I feel like I'm internally dying. Like for some of us, it's a matter of like that hunger. We need that to live. If I wake up and I'm not working towards something, I'm like, why am I waking up? Okay, God, I'm ready. Like, take me. If I stop, like God has given me all these gifts, this privilege of life, and I'm just sitting cozy and comfortable. Like for me, I would feel just like I might as well implode. And that's the way I'm wired. I think a lot of creatives and entrepreneurs might just be wired that way, where if we don't figure out what our next thing is, we're just going to self-implode. And yes, that does come with its own toxic cycle of mental health issues. And I think my seasonal depression comes around the end of every year. November, December, it hits hard. And maybe that comes from, of course, having a strained relationship with my mother, not being home for the holidays, seeing everyone with family, that doesn't help. But also, I think I look at the year and I'm like, I look at all the things I wasn't able to accomplish. Rather than celebrate like, oh, Glo, these wins, year's wrapping up, big up yourself. No, I'm like, dang, I missed the mark here, didn't finish the book, and I think I get really hard on myself, and so I just spiral a little bit. So yeah, mental health has been a struggle. Therapy has been a blessing. Daily devotionals, reading, staying prayed up, and journaling. Those are like my just mental wholeness practices. But that's such a great question because yes, it's a blessing and a curse.
It's hard. Like sometimes I even find myself like if I have nothing to do, which is like rarely that I have nothing to do, but like let's just say I'm not super busy. I'm just like I gotta create something. I gotta create and find, and I'm like, and then I know people are just like sit down, like just relax. Like you can't just sit down and relax for the next 30 minutes without trying to think that you should be doing something or creating something. And I think it's really interesting because I think we're all wired differently, but then there are a lot of similarities maybe between us. I think that's what connects us as humans. But oftentimes, like in the financial independence, retire early space. So I kind of talk a lot about that. And I've moved away from, some of the, I guess, standard talk. I do believe in working. And even if I reach my financial independence number, I'm still going to work. Maybe my work looks a little different. Maybe how I work looks different, but I still want to contribute. But I also know people who have had on the podcast who literally or who are listening to this right now. And it's like, it's good you want to work. But when I reach my $2 million investment portfolio, whatever that looks like for them, I just want to chill. And I feel like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine too. So I find, or what do you think of this idea of what happens once you reach your mark? And for you, it sounds like your mark will always move forward. Like, I don't know if you set a mark.
What mark? The moving mark? The moving target? That's so dope. And I had a friend, tell me that as well about like, I can't wait to never have to use social media again. She hates social media for her business. Like, I can't wait to never have to post another photo again. I was like, ooh, because for me, the creation process, that keeps me alive. And I think I've accepted that I'm never truly gonna retire. And for a very brief period, I tried it. When I hit my mark and my money was making money, I was like, okay, let me see what it's like to take 3 months off. I maybe lasted, like by day 40, I was like itching. I'm like, oh, okay, I gotta create, I gotta post, I gotta coach. It was a problem, and I realized, like, Glo, you've got so much inside you. You're meant to constantly be putting stuff out there.
But you also, in a way, have reached the goal, which is you're living the life that you want to live so much that the money, even if you had all of it, it doesn't matter. Like, you're still doing what you would do every day anyway. And what I would love is that for people who, without the money, is that they're living that life. They're working in that way. Even if they can't do it full time, it's doing it on the side. They're still like living in this place of just joy and contribution. So that way, even if they hit the mark, they're aware of it, but they're just like, that's cool. But like, I'm living life. There's more to do.
That's it. And I think in my 20s, I sacrificed the time to make the money. And now I'm 31 now. Now I'm sacrificing the money to buy back my time. And the way the offers come in, like my social media is like, I mean, it blew up. I got 200,000 followers last summer from the George Floyd. I just stepped in and started doing ally education. So from that point on, like every single morning, it's at least 5 offers. And these are like 5-figure offers of just like, some 6-figure contracts, but just like I turn down money every single day. Because for me, I'm just like, I know what having money is like. I no longer need that. Like, I don't need to be, I want the freedom first. And again, I had to work towards that. Like, I didn't sleep. I didn't eat well. I didn't have a healthy like lifestyle in my 20s because I was so scrappy, like whatever I got to do to survive. I was literally living to afford next week. People are like, Glo, where are you going to be? I'm like, I don't know, wherever I can afford. I might be at the hospital working, and then I see a train to Poland for $5 or for €5. I'm going to take that, see what opportunities are there. But I was building up my travel blog portfolio because here's the thing. If I was trying to be a travel blogger, I couldn't stay in Spain or in Germany or in France. I had to keep building up like, all right, y'all, I'm in Slovenia, I'm in Slovakia, I'm in Bulgaria, I'm in Turkey. I had to build up the fact that like, oh, wait, no, this chick travels. Like, she's out there. And that took a lot of like, let me see what opportunities I can find, in this next country, in this next place. And pitching my way and negotiating my way through different just jobs on the road.
But it sounds so good to hear, like there was a season of work and struggle and not that. So I always go back to too, like Yes, I do think you can have the kind of success you've had. Like I don't always like to glorify like the struggle part. Like I do think that we inherently deserve money and happiness. I think there's so much of it. I know now that you get so many offers, you see how much money is like these companies or just people in general have in the world, that it flows. But it's good to hear that, you know, because I know someone like needs to hear this right now, that they're not earning as much as they want. It is a struggle. And then to hear someone like you go through that, and now you're at the point where you're turning down things, like you're just like, you know what, that doesn't, it's not worth it. Like I think shows, it's a testament to the work that it takes a little bit to get to where you are, but also that it's okay to say no. Now okay, so now I got to backtrack a little bit. Is it okay? Because some people are like, well, that means should I say yes in my season of struggle or my season of working hard? Do I need to say yes to everything? Things that I'm not excited about, that I don't want to do? Because I want to get to the level Glo is. Or would you say you would have started turning down things earlier to get to where you are? Could you have still been in the same place?
Ooh, that's so good. I want to make a quick note to the power of turning things down now is that I don't just turn it down. I now put people on. And that's such a beautiful place to be, because I'm sure there were people that were shouting my praises in rooms that I didn't have access to. And they were the reason that I got some of the gigs. So now it's a blessing to not even be selfish about the opportunities. I'm like, ooh, me turning this down gives another Black creator an opportunity to build their portfolio. Like, it's dope to feel that way. I think, yeah, just overall, like, you just have different seasons of priorities. Back then, my priority was I needed money to survive. And my coach, Brendan Burchard, always says, you need the money to sustain the mission and the message. I could not sustain what I was trying to build without funds. And, you know, having this bird's eye approach now, being like, okay, now I got time to actually figure out what is the message that I want to sustain? What is the mission that I want to attach myself to?
And that applies whether you're not an entrepreneur. I have some people who are just like, that's not their thing. They don't want to do that, but they're in a job right now and it is to pay the bills. But it's like they're doing that so they can get to the point where then maybe they can have a better leverage or position to get another job or start another career. But yes, you have to remember the season you're in. If you need to pay the bills, you need to pay the bills.
And the quickest path to financial freedom is literally downgrading your life. And a lot of people don't want to hear that or do that. But if I had, in my early days, if I used every bit of income to flex and like upgrade my wardrobe, I was not shopping. I was trading my clothes in thrift shops. Like if I was being flown from Hawaii to Finland, I was like, oof, I don't got no winter clothes. So I'll go to a thrift shop somewhere, or I don't have any summer clothes. I'll go to a thrift shop in Finland and I'll just bring them a bag of clothes, say, hey, is there anything you can give me for this? And again, that level of like, there's a little bit of shamelessness and humility that comes with like these asks. Like they could turn me away and be like, get out of here, homeless chick. Like, what do you, you know, and I've been called some things and I've experienced racism on the road, but I always knew what I was building and I always knew who was protecting and covering me. And I was like, man, God, if this is your will, if I'm meant to be doing this, just sustain me. I went days without eating. I lived on bread and butter for months. But I always was like, God, I feel like you're putting me on something big. Like, I feel like I'm in the right season. Even when my mom was like, give up. It's not working. It's not working. Because I never was going to admit to her how broke I was. I was never going to give her the gratification of knowing that I was struggling. And that was hard because, you know, you have friends that just have a bailout easy. Like, oh, they need $100. You always got your mom and pops to call. My dad passed away when I was 22. My mom, I was never going to give her that satisfaction. So
yeah, so you had to become that for yourself. It seems like your own just safety net.
Oof. Yeah.
I mean, listen, I just think there's so many takeaways, hopefully, for people right now listening, whether you're on an entrepreneurship journey, you have a side hustle that you're working on, and or you're just in a corporate career. Just it shows you just everything that you've been through, that you're going to go through, is literally like building blocks for your thing, whatever that is. But it sounds like at the end of the day, what drives you is like your mission now. It's like giving and serving in a way, though, that earns you money. So let's talk a little bit about that, how you can serve and earn good money. Because I think sometimes, and maybe it's me and just like some of the things that I see, it's just like, oh, but it should be free. Like, you know, money is not a good tool depending on who has it, which can be true. And I want to always switch the conversation to like, the more money we have, the better we can do. And you know what? I deserve to get paid well. for providing and doing and giving. And so I want you to talk a little bit more about like how you view money as a tool and how you think it helps when more people have it.
Absolutely. And I saw this the other day by someone, Erin on Demand is her Instagram. And she was talking about how she was so thankful that her webinar did so well. And I was like, I saw the way she did it. It was so servant driven, and servant leadership is a core value of mine. And I put a comment under her post. I was like, service leads to sales. And if more people can recognize that, they'd be more generous in the way they position their offering. But I think so many people are like, nope, pay me if you want any type of access to me. And I was very open about this, and I got some flack on Twitter. But I was like, if you only want to help people that can pay you, check your heart. Because the amount of people that have done YouTube videos, podcasts like yours, that have served me in seasons where I didn't have anything to invest, my goodness, I wouldn't be where I am today. I needed those free articles and those free YouTube videos to just get me going. And then when I had the funds to invest, I would go back to them like, oh, I remember when they helped me out with that YouTube video, really hooked me up, But like, I show up and I give and I serve and I teach and I educate so freely because I'm not doing it for money. I know that people who want to go deeper, there's a program for that. But like in general, I want to help people. Like if we all used our gift to free and liberate and educate this world, we would just make it a better place. But some people just hoard their information. And again, that scarcity mentality shows that you probably don't know enough. Because if you think that, like, if I give out too much, people won't pay for it, I'm like, read a book then. It means you don't know enough. Because I can give a 10-hour sermon for free and still have 10 hours left of more stuff that I haven't talked about. Like, the way my brain is set up, I've got endless nuggets because of the books I've read, the courses I've taken, just the way my path has been laid out. I've gone through so much that I'll never lose I'll always have something to teach, So if people feel like they don't have enough, it's like it's time to go back to the books and read and be a student again.
Yeah, and it's such a good way to check yourself because maybe you are doing that. We all can make even small decisions. Like, is it from a scarcity place? Is it because if you're not giving this because you think you won't have more, you think negatively of the outcome versus just, letting the outcome be? And so I think that is beautiful, and that hopefully encourages people to create great content, to even in your just everyday lives is to give that compliment, give whatever that is. Some things are free, like, even free for you to give. It's just maybe a little energy, maybe stepping out of your comfort zone to like say hello to someone first. It's like little things like that for me. I'm like, okay, because typically I would say to myself, I match people's energy, which is not always a good thing because some people are also like that. And then we just looking at each other, not matching energies because you think maybe whatever. And so I'm trying to be more the person that creates the energy, like in the room. So I don't have to wait for the person to be nice and smile and say hi. I could do that, but that's free. That energy is like, so I don't know. I just think that all like relates to like our lives and just the day-to-day quality of it, which then leads to the overall journey. So
1,000%. I love that. And honestly, if there's one like single takeaway that I want people to have that are listening is to remember that every single obstacle is an opportunity. And every time I was faced with a challenge, like literally I catapulted. Like once I overcame that challenge, I felt like I was catapulted to a new stratosphere. So it's almost like that test of like, okay, Glo, if you can overcome this, wait for the blessings in store. I feel like God, he's funny about the way he blesses us,
Like you're like, really? Okay, you want to do it that way? All right, fine. Let's do it.
But that testimony, man, it's powerful. And there's nothing that people can bring shame about. Like the reason I call it where I leak my own bad news, where like you can't shame me for being poor because I already talked about it. So what up? What's up? There's nothing that I have shame around in my story because I needed to go through that season. And God always, he puts us through things in order to build us up for the next season of elevation. So I feel very blessed and honored for those seasons of like the trials and, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. So Glo, what is next for you? Tell us about anything coming up we should be looking out for, and then especially where we can follow you, keep up with your beautiful work.
Yeah, so actually YouTube is going to be a big focus point this year. So you can find me Glo Atanmo on YouTube. Of course, Glo Graphics on Instagram, GLO Graphics. but I'm working on a lot of video-based content to put out potentially a travel lifestyle show. So it's a show that showcases, you know, a Black woman that's like not drama filled, nope, not reality TV driven, but just like wholesome Black travel content of what it's like to build a lifestyle around travel, what it's like to be a Black woman experiencing other cultures around the world. So I'm excited about that. And that's kind of like a passion project. Like I'm investing like tens of thousands of dollars into building that up to hopefully pitch to a network one day. So.
Oh, I could totally see that. I could totally see that on Netflix or Travel Channel. So I see it for you.
Yeah, but other than that, I still run the Social Educators Academy. So I'm finishing up cohort 1, and I have 2 more cohorts launching in the summer and the fall.
And my sister is in your class, so I think it's amazing.
Hey, Shayna?
Shayna, yeah, Shayna.
As soon as you said that, I was like, wait, you look like her. As soon as you said my sister, I was like, it has to be Shayna. Shut up. What a
Shayna. Yes. And I'm so happy for her because she is very creative. She has all these things she wants to do. She's helping me with Journey to Launch a little bit now, but I know she wants to spread her wings and do her own thing. So it's beautiful to see how much she's learning from you and implementing and just seeing her growth. So I just love it.
I cannot. Oh, that just makes me so happy. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so dope. Yeah, y'all look alike. I see it.
Okay, and your podcast and just Instagram before we head out.
Yeah, so my podcast is The Glos Show. Check me out there for entrepreneurship, travel, and faith. And Instagram, Glo Graphics. On Instagram, Straight Flexing. On Instagram.
Yay! Thank you so much, Glo, for this. This was amazing.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.